Obviously, broadcasts are all about storytelling. You want to make sure you're getting all the angles. You want to make sure you're capturing the emotion, the differences between both. And we're going to touch a little bit on both of those, but let's just start off all the angles. Josh, can you run us through a little bit of those angles?
All starts with kind of the primary camera, usually labeled camera one in the majority of sports, and that's kind of the most boring job. It's also potentially the easiest job, but it's the most important job. And everyone who starts in the industry winds up being camera one fairly early on, and they appreciate, even though it's simple, they appreciate how valuable it is to the broadcast. And then as you develop, you can find ways to mix that in and mix kind of some small extra movements into your camera one skills to develop those and make it a little bit clearer. And then the rest are all just kind of supporting shots. Usually I have a second camera that's up near camera one for most sports. That's a little bit of a tighter follow. But beyond that, it's just dependent on the sport, whichever angles look best to kind of supplement the primary view that everyone watches it from.
Yeah, that first camera, Cam 1, is, like you said, Josh, it's the one that everybody starts off with. It's the simplest one, but it's also hard. We talked a little bit about that in the that first introductory episode, about how you can get caught in how simple it is and, lose your spot, lose the ball, and all of a sudden you don't have that angle. You have to rely on someone else having that angle. So it's very simple, but also very important. It might be it might be an unpopular opinion, but I kind of like doing cam one those first couple of days because it's the one that's on all the time. And as a camera operator, you just want to be on as much as possible. You want the director to use your shots, so you just want to be on as much as possible. It'd almost be a game, a competition with the other cam ops.
Yeah, and I think even when you look at the difference between, as Josh said, it's different for every sport, but you have that Cam 1 and Cam 2, which are basically the high middle of the arena or middle of the stadium, where you can have that Cam 2 close follow, but then you try and get the rest of your cameras away and in different spots so that you're getting different angles. Because if you just have all the cameras lined up, you're going to get the front or the back or the side of every player. But if you're able to, in a football stadium, put an end zone cam, or in a basketball court, put one in the corner, you're able to get the different feel and draw different emotions out of those different little shots and sides and angles and whatnot.
That's true. One of my favorite camera angles for different sports is one that mimics the audience's point of view for those that are actually in attendance at the game. Just because then you really get a sense, especially if they have some good audio mixing layered in, you really get a sense of the game as a whole and just a really good sensation of being there in the seats.
I'm glad you brought that up, Josh, because I saw this. I don't know if any other sport does it, but I saw it in the Mexican Liga MX, the Mexican Soccer League. They put almost like a GoPro type camera on, like, I'm sure it wasn't a fan, but it looked like it was literally on a fan, and you were like, and it was like all the way back, so you would get this really interesting shot. It literally did feel like you were on right there in the middle of the crowd, which I thought was really cool. It was a little jarring at first, but after seeing a couple of times, you really start getting used to it.
Well, I think one of my favorite cameras that they don't use in every baseball game, but you see it more and more nowadays, is the umpire cam. When they put that GoPro, like you said, on the mask or the chest protector of the umpire, and you see the pitch coming right at you in real time as if you were a baseball player, or as if you were the hitter or the catcher. And it's really jarring and it's really different than another camera angle, because when you see it from out in center field, or when you see the pitch come in from as a fan's perspective, you have different views than when you're getting that GoPro live shot from right there in person.
There's another example that's very similar to that recently. I'm a big motorsports guy, and they have consistently been trying to mimic getting camera shots from within like cars, race cars, for decades now. And it started as like these big chunky cameras that were just next to them in the driver's seat. But they've evolved so much and the technology has advanced that NASCAR a couple years ago pioneered a very small camera that they stuck right next to the eyes of one of the drivers, like inside the helmet, and you were able to see exactly what the driver was seeing, approximately like a centimeter off of what they were actually doing. And then that spread to IndyCar, and I believe Formula One still uses it currently. But that camera angle is just another example of getting people in the action and showing them like very tangibly what a driver sees throughout a race. So I love those kinds of shots as well, where you can get them right in the action and really help the audience see a sport in a different way.
Yeah, and they have a couple cameras on those cars, right, Josh? I'm not much into NASCAR and motorsports, but I know you are. They got a couple cameras in those cars, right?
Sure, they got some on the roof as well. Usually, it doesn't matter what motorsports series it is. Usually, they have one on the roof. If it's like a stock car, like NASCAR will usually have one on the rear bumper as well. I've seen a couple on like the splitters, like right the very front part of the car that's like right on the ground. So you just see the ground scooting by at 200 miles an hour or whatever it is. So a lot of very cool shots that they've worked in over the years.
Yeah, and all those shots, like you can be there at the game. You're feeling different emotions while you're there at the race, but from the broadcast, you get a whole lot of different angles, stuff that you wouldn't get on the broadcast if you were actually there, and being there, you get stuff that you wouldn't get from watching at home. So it's kind of a give and take, a different experience for both being there and being at home just watching.